So after my recent video about Candace Owens posting text threads about Charlie Kirk's last days and the narratives, I ended up getting 100 people unsubscribed from the video within the hour, but another 100 subscribed. So I want to say thank you to the new people coming in and actually hearing me out on what I'm doing on this channel, which is searching and trying to be reasonable and not be too conspiratorial, because I have been in the past. So I'm trying to be extremely careful while also giving you guys the best information that I can find. But right now, Charlie Kirk's producer and also co-host and one of his best friends actually just confirmed that Candace Owens' text thread that she posted about Charlie Kirk leaving the Israel cause because a lot of his Jewish donors were pressuring him to not platform her or Tucker Carlson. He confirms that it is true. I'm going to play that video. And I also want to make this video about the fact that there's a lot of people, again, trying to hijack what Charlie Kirk and how he thought during his final days, right? During his last day and during his final week of life, that he actually was seeing something that he didn't like. And a lot of people want to erase the fact that that's how he was feeling and how important this topic is. Now, I'm not here to justify that Candace Owens is doing this for every good reason, because I actually don't know. I think that what she's doing is getting results and getting people now to see what is true about the text messages. But I know from me as a content creator, as somebody that has been speaking about this for a very long time, I think it is important that we do not ignore the story and make people out to be crazy, because that's what people are doing. They're saying if we start to talk about this, if you say something, then you are absolutely crazy for speaking about it. So this is Andrew COVID confirming something that a lot of people just did not want to be true, even me, because this just makes the story so much more. And it's not that I don't want it to be true. I just know that now we have a lot more work to do as far as getting people to be understanding of what exactly Charlie Kirk was doing in his final days versus what they're telling you he wasn't or was. Let's get right into it. This is Andrew COVID basically breaking down Candace Owens' text messages that a lot of people, again, said that they were fake and that she's crazy and that she's making this up. Here he is.
But I want to take the start of this show to address some of the things that have been going around on public, namely about a group text chain that has been made known and released by Candace Owens. And I just want to address it head on because, that was a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic. And I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friends' trust in that way. But I did share it with some people in government because it happened really quick. It was, it took 33 hours for authorities to get their suspect. And in those first moments, we wanted no stone unturned. We wanted to leave nothing unturned. So I shared it with a few people. Don't know where it went from there, apparently. But here we are. So one of the reasons, Blake, that I'm glad to have this now public, it was not mine to share publicly, but one of the criticisms we've received is that we don't care. We're not investigating every lead. We're not looking under every stone. And that somehow we're just sweeping things under the rug. And when I say that we want justice for Charlie more than anybody else, I really mean it, and no stone unturned. I mean, I don't know if you want to chime in on that part alone, but I have more to say.
Yeah, so it has been so frustrating to have people blow up about this. Yeah. And I've certainly stated publicly, the reason I haven't weighed in on things is I am an eyewitness to events, and they've said, don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
It's 1,000.
You guys let me know how you feel about this. How you feel about this? Many people, again, making the case that this should have been shared, that Candace Owens should not have to dig for this. And how did she find that she's wrong for sharing it? And there's just so much going on. But the text messages, they're true. And this is where we're at. So I understand why people feel that way. But here is the most important conversation I want to have with you. And I want to have with everybody. I've seen people switch up. I've seen people take drastic measures and go beyond where I never thought they would go. And Andrew COVID actually does something here. He teaches me something, and something I am saying to you of who Charlie Kirk was versus who these people are trying to make him out to be. Everybody has an agenda. Everyone. There's people that have the agenda that they're anti-Israel and that Israel did it and Israel is responsible and all of this and all of that. There's those people. And then there's the people that are pro-Israel that are saying, no, Charlie Kirk was never anti-Israel. He was a Zionist. He would never do this. Here's the point that people are missing, and I think this is the most important point. Charlie Kirk was a loyal friend, and he was as Zionist and as pro-Israel as you can get. Aside from the fact that he felt that there was Jewish donors who were pressuring him to not platform people that he loved and platform different ideas, he stood loyal to them. He stood loyal to them. And that's the story here, because Tyler Robinson is the shooter so far from what we know. He wasn't working for Israel so far from what we know. Or was he? I guess we really don't know. But that's not the point of this particular video, because this particular video is about the people that have jumped ship, called you crazy, as they think that by being anti-Candace Owens, by being anti-Tucker Carlson, by calling you names, calling you this, saying this, Charlie Kirk was literally standing up for his friends in his final weeks of living. Take a listen to this story right here by Charlie Kirk's co-producer on the Charlie Kirk Show.
Charlie was loyal to people that he had shared history with, right? He was asked, I think this may be what you were about to say, Blake. He was asked about Candace before in public, and he would always say, listen, we're friends. He would never say an ill word about her. And if people, tried to force him to do that about Tucker or whatever, he would always be defiant because he didn't want to be morally blackmailed.
Exactly. Charlie was loyal to people who had ever been friends to him, whether it was very old donors or just people who had worked with Turning Point.
Yes.
And as long as they were not attacking him, he would not air any dirty laundry or, frankly, any disagreements he had with people. He did disagree with Candace on the Israel issue. He disagreed with Tucker on the Israel issue, but he also recognized Tucker had positions they agreed on. Tucker was a useful voice in the conservative movement on many things, and so he invited him to events, and they were popular events. And so he would react. Sometimes people would just say, yeah, don't invite him, or we're going to cut off some large donation. And that would make him angry. He would say this, yeah, as you say, this is moral blackmail. And he's this Scottish guy. He's combative. His reaction to that is, the classic, like, screw me, no, screw you, that sort of thing.
He had this, and it's one of my favorite parts about Charlie is just how defiant and independent he was. Yeah, he was never going to
not be controlled by other people.
You could not buy him. He was not bought and paid for. You could not control him with money. It just wasn't the way he was wired. He didn't actually care about money that much.
And so what's going on here? What is going on here? You guys can look up what the text say. What is going on is Charlie, as I mentioned, he loved Israel. He cared about Israel. He cared about the Holy Land. And he was aware there was a surge of anti-Israel sentiment on the right. Charlie thought seriously about this issue and was trying to chart a path forward for people who were sympathetic to Israel. He was playing the good cop here. He was saying, you guys don't realize how bad it could potentially get. Mm-hmm. You have to change your PR. That's why he writes a letter to Bibi. You are losing the PR war. You need to change how you do your PR. You need to change your messaging to the American right. You might need to change what you expect from us, that you're not going to be able to count on just, for example, unlimited military aid from America. That's just not going to be tenable going forward. So maybe it has to be a more passive relationship. Maybe you need to give more support towards America. Some more support towards America in, for example, opposing Islamic migration into America. That's one thing he thought we could ally on. And he was trying to do all of this because he cared about the relationship and wanted to chart a way forward on it. And he would feel angry and upset when people would react to this by blowing up and suggesting he was an anti-Semite or a hater. He would get angry about that because he knew it was untrue. And then
Netanyahu, why he thought it was very important. And again, I'm trying to paint this picture for those who are misled by maybe me or maybe others, is that the real story here is that nobody fought for Israel more than that guy. And for those things, even if he platformed people that did not like the idea, because he felt that me, and many others around America were starting to lose faith in the state of Israel. They were not liking Netanyahu. They did not like what was going on after October 7th. By the way, it's been how long? 3 years, 2 years since that atrocity happened, since that attack happened? That's terrible. By the way, rest in peace to those who lost their lives. But there were things that took place that, and Andrew Kovac says here that Charlie Kirk was letting the government know and Bibi Netanyahu know. And so when he did that and they started to call him an anti-Semite, he felt that they were trying to take some type of control over him and what he can or cannot say. And he stood loyal. He stood loyal to Tucker. He stood loyal to people who were growing this sentiment about the state of Israel. That's the story here, in my opinion, before we can deep dive. Who was it? How was it? What's the truth? What's not the truth? What the truth is that he died a loyal friend and that he was willing to lose the donor money because he did not want to be morally blackmailed. And yes, in his final days, he was saying, hey, you know what? I might have to leave this cause for a little bit because you guys are starting to lose the public perception, the sentiment. I'm trying to help you guys, but you guys are not helping yourselves. You're trying to morally blackmail me to stop bringing these voices, and you're playing into the narratives. That is in the text chain. I'm not making this up. That is in the text chain. So when people come and they said that you are crazy and that you are this, you are that, I mean, you could do that all day. But Charlie Kirk, he did not get rid of those friends. He actually brought them on to have conversation, to have friendly debates about this issue, because that is how you solve it in the United States of America. Differences of opinion, you debate them. That's what he did. That was what he lived on. He lived on debating people. But I want you to take a look at this. Right? I think this is another important video. And again, I'm trying to get people to understand what I'm seeing here. You don't have to agree with me, which I understand you probably won't. But man, I know I'm not going crazy here. So let's actually go to Josh Hammer. Josh Hammer, who was on the text chain, who again was mentioned by, of course, Candace Owens. Josh Hammer, I want you to listen to the way he spoke about Charlie Kirk's platforming of Tucker Carlson. I want you to know that this is the type of pressure that Charlie Kirk was under, because Charlie Kirk, again, stood loyal to Tucker Carlson. You had people like Josh Hammer with powerful voices about Israel saying this about who Tucker Carlson was and why. Well, you'll hear it.
What Charlie was essentially trying to do was he was essentially trying to figure out how to navigate this to keep the Nick Fuentes neo-Nazi Groyper stuff at bay while trying to meet the younger generation, the Gen Z folks who are pretty wobbly on this issue, kind of meet them on their own terms and to try to kind of guide them towards a better place without using kind of the outmoded rhetoric and talking points of kind of the 1970s, 1980s boomers. That's essentially what he was trying to do. Now, we can quibble as to whether he made the right decision here or there. I happen to not like that Tucker Carlson speaks at Turning Point USA events. I think Tucker Carlson is a malicious anti-Semite. I think he's the most dangerous anti-Semite in the history of the United States. I think he is a wow, profoundly dangerous man. I genuinely.
Josh Hammer says that Tucker Carlson is a raging anti-Semite and that he is the biggest threat to Jews in America. This is where this thing just goes off the rails. I gotta take my glasses off for this, because I think we have gotten to this point. Tucker Carlson is the biggest threat to Jews. He's the biggest anti-Semite. Josh Hammer, who was in the thread, has said this. This is what he feels. So could you imagine the type of pressure that Charlie Kirk was under when he has Jewish donors threatening to pull money? You have people saying that Tucker Carlson is the biggest anti-Semite, and there's people playing into this. But this is where it gets tricky, man, because you have to make a decision here. You have a moral obligation to make a decision as to what you want to stand with Josh Hammer and believe that Tucker Carlson is this big bad wolf guy who hates Jews and is the biggest anti-Semite, because that is who they believed Charlie Kirk was loyal to. He was loyal to a big anti-Semite. Or you can look at Tucker Carlson and say, well, man, I'm not going to lie. I've seen anti-Semites. Tucker Carlson isn't close to that. He just despises Netanyahu, and he has found himself to be on the side of Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, many different people who happen to be left and right on Bibi Netanyahu and on Israel's influence on America. But he's he's the biggest threat to Jews. That's where I think that Charlie Kirk was at. I'm trying to get I'm trying to get the picture in my head as to where Charlie Kirk was at. And of course, you're going to feel that much pressure when, in their world, Charlie Kirk, he's giving Turning Point USA to Tucker Carlson, excuse me. And this is what Josh Hammer believes Tucker Carlson is. So we've kind of gotten to this leftist standpoint where I always say that one of the main reasons I got into politics is because every time I looked up, I see people starting to live in different universes and in different worlds. Trump is a Hitler. Trump is Hitler. Trump is the worst type of person. They're coming for your rights. They're coming for you. People began to feel morally obligated to do things, to start moving a certain way because of that rhetoric that you are the big threat to me and my ideas and my livelihood and my people. That is the same type of language that I'm hearing here about Tucker Carlson, who Charlie Kirk is putting up on the stage. He also had Dave Smith debate. Dave Smith debated. He debated someone who was on the pro-Israel side. Dave Smith is not a Zionist. He's not but he was friends with Charlie Kirk. You guys get where I'm going with this. You get the point of this video. I hope you do, because there's so many people unsubscribing from me. I'm really trying my best to give that perspective, the best perspective as a Christian of what it may have been like and why those texts are very important, because there are people trying to hijack. There's a kid who is now being pushed, who's very pro-Israel, by the way, to be the next leader of Turning Point USA. But now that you know that Charlie Kirk was not leading in that direction, you're going to replace him now with somebody that is. That's why me, from the normal point of view, trying to understand here, I think that's why this gets dangerous, because people will start to jump to those conclusions. You're replacing Charlie Kirk with this kid who is this kid? You know, why is he flying on private jets? What is he like? Why are you guys jumping this? And again, maybe some people share the sentiment, maybe some people don't. But man, I got to tell you guys, this isn't cool. A lot of the things that I've seen, people turn their backs on others and try to defend their Israel position, and other people trying to defend their anti-Israel position. But in reality, what is the real truth here? The real truth here is that Charlie Kirk was loyal to those people that he loved, even though they differed his ideas, principal ideas about Jesus, not about Jesus, excuse me, about Israel being the Holy Land, or why you should protect it and all that. And people began to, his close friends. But then you have people like Josh Hammer and other people who are donating and have influence saying, look, man, you can't do this. You can't go in this direction. It's not good. And Charlie Kirk, confirmed by his friends, said, you know what? I don't care what you think is good or bad. I'm going to do this because this is what I want to do. And I'm tired of you guys holding me hostage at this point. I'm going to have to walk away from this. That's the truth. So that's what I get from this. And maybe somebody else has another truth, but that's what I think the truth is. And so I pray for this country, bro. I pray for Christians. I pray for everybody, man. I really do. Because I try not to talk about these things as much no more. I talked about it, here and there. I gave glimpses, but I don't want to make my whole channel this, because I don't think this. I think there's so many bigger stuff happening in the United States of America. But this is starting to be one of those things where you can't avoid no more. You shouldn't try to avoid it. And I have had my stance not be pro-Israel, and I've had people unsubscribe from me, and I never cared. But I feel like I have to talk about this because people are so pro-Israel that they're willing to ignore the truth. And people are so anti-Israel, people are also willing to ignore what the truth is. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe some of you guys differ. If you do, comment down below. If you guys actually agree, also let me know if you guys agree. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.